Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has now been in jail for almost 2 years. He's currently serving a 14-year sentence on corruption charges he's always denied. His wife Bushra is serving 7 years. Reports suggest that both Khan and his wife are now being kept in harsh and degrading conditions, which amount to political persecution, and that Bushra has been gravely unwell. Well, Khan and his party remain hugely popular in Pakistan, and the case has roiled the country, which Khan claims is living under an undeclared martial law. Well, joining me from our studio in London are Imran Khan's two sons, Suleiman and Qasim. Well, welcome to both of you to Uncensored. I said this to your dad when I last interviewed him. When I was about 10 years old, I was a fan of Sussex County Cricket Club and used to bowl at your dad in the nets when he played at Sussex. And all I remember about him was he was an incredibly kind-hearted, generous man then as a cricketer who allowed kids to bowl him in the net. So, I go back a long way with your dad in his other incarnations as a great cricketer. For you guys, I know you both love your cricket, but for you guys, just on a human level, let me start with you, Suleiman, if I may. On a human level, you've now not seen your father for how long?
Coming up to 3 years in November.
And you haven't spoken to him, I think, for at least 4 months?
Yeah. Last time we spoke was in March, I think.
Right, and you're 28, and Qasim, you're 26. I've got three sons, 32, 28, 24. I couldn't imagine going a week without having any contact with them. What has this been like for you guys on a human level?
I mean, it's been, it's obviously brutal. We're used to speaking to our father very often. I mean, the court mandated that we speak to him once a week. We barely spoke to him, once every 2 or 3 months. And even when we did speak to him, we would often get a message at around 2 a.m. in the morning saying, you're going to speak to him at 9 a.m. And so if you miss it, that rolls on. It's another 2 months we don't speak to him. So that was our one kind of solace, that we got to at least speak to him occasionally. Now, since the last interview we did, it seems they've become a little bit stricter, and we haven't spoken to him once since the last interview we did. It seems like that's kind of a technique that they're using to try and break him or cause him a little bit more distress.
And Suleiman, what conditions do you believe your dad is now living in?
So he's in a very small cell. He has to be in there 22 hours a day at the moment. He's only allowed out of his cell for 2 hours a day at the moment. They've restricted access. Books were kind of his only solace. They've kind of restricted access to the books that he wants. He's had access to his lawyers and his personal physician and his family members restricted.
I'd like to add as well, the conditions in there are awful, as in there have been 10 people who have died in that prison of hepatitis C, and that's because of unsanitary conditions, equipment like razors and things that haven't been cleaned properly. So, it's very, very clear to see their awful conditions. He's washing himself in water that isn't just unfiltered, it's visibly murky. It's apparently discolored. So, the hygiene levels in there are pretty abhorrent.
Do you fear, Qasim, that he may die in there?
I mean, you try not to think about things like that, but yeah, I mean, I've had moments where I've thought, am I going to see him again? And, it's been so long. This is the longest we've ever not seen him. Also, the longest I've ever not spoken to him. So now it's just getting so desperate that, we're quite private people. We don't usually do things like this, but it's getting to a stage where we're desperate. We want to do whatever we can.
I last spoke to your father just soon after the assassination attempt on his life, and he said this: when you're a political leader and you're in the situation that you're in now, where there's a genuine threat against you of assassination, do you feel fear?
No, Piers, when I entered politics, I actually had conquered my fear of dying. Otherwise, I would not have entered politics, because I came in to stand up against the entire status quo. I came came to fight corruption. Today, the entire political spectrum, 16 parties on one side and I'm on the other side. And because this was the status quo, which is 60 years of our last 62 years, half has been ruled by military and half by these two families. So I came to fight these two families.
You know, he's shown extraordinary courage there, Qasim. You know, I'm not surprised. You know, he's, as a political leader, he's behaved exactly the way he did as a cricketer. You know, showing great courage and leadership and so on. But you know, that was an occasion where he very nearly got killed. I mean, it was a very, very close escape from assassination. Again, as his son, what is that like for you?
Look, Piers, we built a very thick skin with him. When we were younger, we knew he always went headfirst into very dangerous situations. He went against mafias. He, you know, we saw him get shot. That was the last time we actually went over there. Was straight after that, and it's the last time we saw him. But you know, he's a very resilient character. He's always been like that. It's his strong faith. You know, he was like that even before he had that strong faith. It's obviously it's brutal to see him right now. This is one of the worst situations I've kind of gone through, because we really didn't think it was going to be this long, his sentence or his incarceration. You know, it's an unpredictable place, Pakistan, but to be in there nearly coming up to 2 years, yeah, it's brutal. So it's the first time I've really wavered a little bit on my faith in him being okay. So that's why we're here.
Suleiman, I did another interview with your dad where he talked about you guys. Let's take a look at this. You also, Imran, you have kids back here in the UK, and your ex-wife Jemima was on Twitter saying how relieved that they all were to see that you'd survived this. But, you know, in those moments, you must also, you're a father. You know, what were your thoughts once you knew you'd survived about your sons? Did you want to speak to them quickly? Because obviously they would hear about it perhaps before you could even talk to them.
I went to the hospital, 2 hours drive. The moment I got there, then I spoke to my sons. And of course, I spoke to my wife, both of them. My wife actually was remarkable. You know, you know, the fact that I was saved, she was quite relieved. But my boys were sort of quite worried. And I hope to see them soon.
I mean, are they keen for you now to stay out of the public eye? Is that on your mind, your sons and how they feel?
My sons, when they were younger, I'm talking about my older son was very sensitive. So when they were about 8, 9 years old, my older son, that's when he used to worry a lot, you know, and he always wanted me out of politics. But, you know, I feel that, you know, we human beings have a responsibility to our society. And this is the spiritual way of life. There are two ways. One is material yourself, the other is the spiritual. And some 30 years ago, when I went on the spiritual path, that's the only reason I came into politics, because I realized I had a responsibility, being so privileged in this country.
How do you feel watching that back, Suleiman?
Well, it's completely true. When I was younger, sort of 9, 10, we'd constantly hear about his life being in danger, and I'd always beg him to leave politics, live a more comfortable life, maybe living off the back of his cricket career. But as we've got older, as he's got more successful in politics, I've kind of learned that, and also just getting older and understanding these things a bit more. He wouldn't be happy if he wasn't doing what he's doing. Even if he was living a comfortable life with us in the UK or in Pakistan, he genuinely wouldn't be happy if he wasn't trying to make a change over there.